What's good? Salute, salute. The streets are buzzing. NBA free agency day 6. The New York Knicks in the news. What else is new? Salute to the best chat in the biz. We're gonna get down and talk about it. The rumors, the talk with Fred Katz going on the ESPN New York radio show with the Michael K. And talking about the Knicks are in active discussions, trying to make those upgrades. We'll talk about the burning questions this off-season, summer league talk as well. But we also have some news that's just come through, so we're going to talk about that. Salute, salute, salute. How we feeling? How's everyone feeling? It's been a busy off-season, but man, as Fred Katz also spoke about today, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, the biggest moves are yet to come. The Knicks are in discussions, trying to make those upgrades via trades. We know they're capped out at the moment, just right below the tax apron, and we're trying to make those upgrades, trying to get the star in. Also, where does Damian Lillard, where does James Harden end up? But like I said, yeah, we're going to get into the burning questions. We're going to play fact or fiction, and help us out, chat. What's fact? What's fiction? But yeah, I agree with what's Dirty saying also. OG is one of those names. It does seem like Pascal Siakam is also, likely to depart Toronto. We know Toronto's been one of the biggest losers of free agency so far. But you see on screen also, it does seem like MSG Networks is going to do a special. But that leads me into the Fred Katz thing, right? And then we'll get into the burning questions and chop up the latest. Yeah, as everyone may have listened on ESPN New York Radio, Fred Katz also put out his article on The Athletic as well. Make sure you subscribe. I think they're doing a discount with that. Great coverage. But yeah, Fred Katz always chooses his words carefully. But certainly he's gone out today on multiple outlets now to say that, confirm that he's hearing, talks that the Knicks are putting together packages, built around promising young guys, to target prime age veterans that they believe is going to really help this Knicks roster get to that next level. Really, really close. Getting to that next level is another story. But that ties into the video on screen. Now, I'm not no conspiracy theorist, but I certainly feel like they've chosen their message carefully, with ESPN, with MSG, right? Nothing but hits, right? Nothing hits like a big move. It's got Jalen Brunson on the clip there, right? Who else do we see? We see Brunson. We see Randall. We don't see Mitch. We don't see RJ Barrett. And we don't see Emmanuel Quickly. We see Josh Hart. We see Hartenstein. And we see Julius Randle. So that's just something I noticed as well. Let me know if you guys notice the same thing. But yeah, regardless of what Fred Katz is saying, basically the Knicks know their next move is to get a guy that's a starting player. It's ideally a star, but it's a veteran. He's saying, a high-end veteran starting player or a star that's really going to complement this team. But it's likely, a young player outgoing. The package is built around a young player. So who do you guys feel like that's going to be, right? Emmanuel Quickly is obviously coming up to the extension. So one would feel, it's fair to speculate Emmanuel Quickly is going to be in a deal if a deal gets done. And we'll talk about the names and everything. But Fred said also that he doesn't, it's not like talks are imminent. A deal is imminent, talks are ongoing. But that he does feel like the Knicks are being quite forceful. That's the message I got, and that's one of the burning questions we'll play in a minute. Are the Knicks being aggressive enough? Is Leon Rose asleep at the wheel? But in terms of this, right, it's only day 6 of free agency. A lot of people are, given their evaluations on the Knicks off season already, but it's far from done, right? It's early days as Coach Nick told us, it's summer league. It's a great opportunity for execs, coaches, guys to mingle, and get connected. A lot of discussions happen at summer league, which is what happened around the past few years, you know, um, with previous deals. But yeah, summer league's a great time to mingle. We'll talk about that later in the show, as it's kind of lower in the priorities at the minute with this buzzing off season. But yeah, we'll talk about also the deal that just went down and what kind of ramifications that has with the Knicks. So the Dallas Mavericks have upgraded now. They're kind of, I'm not going to say resurrecting their offseason, but they've done okay with this deal. So they've landed Grant Williams in a sign and trade. He's finalizing a 4-year, $53 million deal, a sign and trade with the Mavericks. All they're shipping out is Reggie Bullock. They're shipping out Reggie Bullock, and I think the rights to swap a couple of picks in far in the future as well, who's going to San Antonio. Yeah, so that deal is very, very interesting. I think that gives Dallas, a solid defensive wing, a versatile guy who can stretch it and shoot some threes. So, but what does that mean? The fact is Reggie Bullock's $10 million is guaranteed. That's going to San Antonio. So it's very unlikely that San Antonio can absorb an Evan Fournier contract. So without sending salary back to the Knicks, and that's kind of what we know the Knicks are quite hesitant to do right at this point. So unless it's a minor move and we're getting back Doug McDermott, who's earning I think $4 million less than Fournier, that's not really going to allow the Knicks to make a larger move. The hope was that maybe we could send Fournier into San Antonio's cap space and get larger salary relief, but that's going to be difficult now, with this Grant Williams deal. But that just basically indicates that the Knicks' next move is a trade. It's coming down in the pike. The other news that we had recently was yesterday. Alan Hahn talking on his show, Barton Hahn, on ESPN Radio, basically talking about what he's heard and confirming from his perspective that they've had a chance to get Paul George. As we kind of heard earlier in the reports with the LA Times. He says they said it was too expensive. They didn't want to do it. They've already backed out of that now. They talked to the Clippers, and so the Clippers gave what it would cost for the Knicks to get Paul George, and the Knicks said, Paul George also said, I want the extension, and that's where the Knicks kind of backed away. But they were asking for a pretty significant price too, so that was another reason the Knicks backed away. Also, you guys give me your thoughts on that. I've been quite vocal that, I would support a Paul George acquisition in terms of fit for this team. And, you do need to give up some solid pieces. But I do think, it's fair to back out, if they're hesitant about that extension. But I do hope they've got, a firm grasp of the ability to get other stars in the door. Because I do want the Knicks to make upgrades. I think it's a very important window, as we'll get into the burning questions coming up shortly. One of those is when should the Knicks strike? And I really feel like this 2-year window with Jalen Brunson earning a cheaper contract is the time to strike. But the positive thing to me does indicate that the Knicks front office, Leon Rose, feels the same way. As the Knicks are very active in trade discussions, talking all around the league. Fred Katz confirms, with willing to part with younger guys, to get that guy in the door. Who could it be? I think the Toronto Raptors, very, very, active around the league in terms of now what are they going to do? I think they do need to pivot. But yeah, nonetheless, the Clippers are also going to be doing a lot with their indications of them trying to get James Harden. Also, Sherwin's thoughts on the matter. He says Paul George makes too much money for a trade to work. I think they can definitely make the trade work. I think it's the extension that would worry the New York Knicks. Dirty says it really depends on which picks they're talking about. The protected ones are fine. ours are not in a Paul George trade. Yeah, I got to agree with that. I think it's very, very fair that the Knicks try to hold on to their own picks, and, basically, try to get rid of these protected ones, that aren't as important. We don't even know when are they going to convey. That's the troubling thing. What's good, Keith? I'd rather just send Fournier and a first round pick protected to the Suns for Doug McDermott. We can afford to do that and it don't hurt us at all. That would be a precursor to the next move, I guess. Who would you want to use that extra little bit of space on? I think Doug McDermott, I like the player that he is over Fournier, 100%. But yeah, it's a minor move that would only give us a little bit of salary cap relief this off season, to be able to maybe get a Kelly Oubre. Grant Williams, as we talked about, is off the board now. I think that's a good move for Dallas. I do forget about the other third team in that deal, but yeah, the Knicks are surveying the league. They're being patient. They're being patient and they're trying to see which star they can get that's really going to help them. The other aspect of what Fred Katz says is basically that they're trying to be diligent with what type of star to get. Now, to me, that says a lot. That says about, okay, when we make this big swing, it's got to be the dude that we can keep. As we need to re-up Brunson, he needs to complement Randall because Randall's probably going to be here for the long term. Salary-wise, it needs to still give us some flexibility. So that's what I think that means in terms of the Knicks being diligent about which star to get. And probably Tom Thibodeau having some significant input. OG Anunoby does seem like a guy that could be had. It's going to cost a lot, but I think him. Who would you guys prefer? Let's say if it was a Pascal Siakam or an OG Anunoby. If the Knicks are having discussions with the Raptors, who would be the guy out of those two that you would prefer more? I got a feeling it would be OG from the Knicks' perspective and Tom Thibodeau's as well, just because I think Pascal might be better at the 4 with Julius Randle here. That's going to be a tricky fit. 1804, what's good? The Knicks are holding on to their assets for that star. The Paul George trade request was horrendous. Also, we're going to talk about, do the Knicks need to make a move for the backup 4 as well? So we've chopped up, the Alan Hahn thing. I'm okay, I guess, with the Knicks backing out of the Paul George thing if, the extension worries them. I just thought, we could maybe try to get Paul George, where I hoped we could get George for, a couple of year rental, for a cheaper package to see what we could do. But the Clippers, let's see what happens with that situation. They're trying to get Harden in the door first. They got the concerns with Kawhi and everything. But yeah, kind of McDermott's like-for-like swap with Fournier is 100% too similar in terms of that player. But yeah, Kelly Oubre would be a player I'd be welcome to use that little bit of extra salary on. It's kind of surprising he's still out there, for that. I know maybe Miles Bridges coming back to Charlotte definitely means he wants to get up out of there with that. So let's get into some burning questions, right, as we chop this thing up. The first question is, are the Knicks making more moves this off-season? Now, things change daily. It was like 2 days ago, people were worried that this is it. This is the roster we're coming in, into training camp with, as I'll bring the roster up on screen. People were concerned, is this the roster we're coming in with? Are the Knicks done? This is definitely fiction. I think the Knicks are definitely making more moves. They're trying to make that trade, and it might go deeper into the off season. So I know us Knicks fans want that upgrade pretty quick, but let's just be patient. Let's just know they're having those discussions around the league on the regular. You know, they're going to do a deal that they like. What stood out to me also, what Fred Katz says, is that, you know, it's a case of they're not just looking for a star. He chose his words carefully. He said they're looking for a, you know, a veteran, a high level veteran contributor as well. So, you know, let's say we could get a decent player for a quickly. It doesn't need to be the all-in kind of package, is what I took for that as well. And also, yeah, I mentioned quickly, I do think RJ Barrett is definitely got to be one of those other younger players, like Jay hits on as well, mentions RJ's name. I think Mitchell Robinson would be lower in the list. I know I mentioned he's not in the video, the MSG Network's, you know, marketing video. I think they're, you know, this time of year they're choosing their faces carefully who they're going to use to market the show, market the Knicks. But I think Mitch is lower down the order. I think his contract's really good, and I think they'll be okay keeping him unless it's a big center upgrade. But yeah, with RJ, with Quickly, you know, they're certainly on the table. You know, Quentin Grimes, I would not put it past them to put him on the block in a superstar deal, but definitely not for just a high level veteran kind of guy. I don't think that's the case. So yeah, RJ Barrett Quickly in any kind of, let's say, OG Anunoby discussion. Who else do you think is around the league that's gettable? You know, it could be someone in San Antonio. You know, Keldon Johnson, for example. I'm high on him as a high level starting guy that can continue to grow. I even like Devin Vassell. I know he's still young on a rookie contract. And I think the Knicks will be looking for an older guy over him. But yeah, he's certainly someone who I consider a high level starter in this thing. Yeah, who do you guys like in terms of that? But yeah, that answers the first burning question. You know, are the Knicks making more moves this offseason? They certainly will. And then considering more minor moves, you know, the backup four, which is another question coming up, which I may as well lead into that question. The next burning question is: do the Knicks need a backup four? So we got Isaiah Roby there. You know, not a lot of people know his game, and I think we're going to get to see him in summer league a lot, which is good. We're going to get to see what he brings. I think the Knicks like Isaiah Roby. You know, they gave him guaranteed money. They brought him in, signed him straight away. But with that said, I could see the Knicks still needing, you know, to sign another guy as a backup for. But I could also see them coming into the season with what they've got. So do I think the Knicks need a backup four at this stage? It would be ideal. I think it would be ideal, but I don't think they need it yet. There's obviously a lot of things in flux. You know, we're early into the off season. You know, let's say if it was an OG or a Pascal Siakam trade, we know those guys can play the four as well. A lot of backup four. You know, if RJ's in the deal or if RJ's still here, I think he's more than capable of playing the backup for Jericho Sims. Let's not forget about him also. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I know a lot of people are asking these questions, like on Twitter. That's why I'm pulling these things up for us to chop up. You know, do the Knicks need a backup for? Are we done making moves? You know, I think we're definitely not done making moves, and I could see why people want us to get a backup for. What's good, Slim? Yeah, Bol is an interesting name who was waived. You know, I could see, you know, a team that can afford to take a flyer on him that's maybe not, you know, in championship contention. You know, any team that's not in championship contention could take a flyer. I think, you know, he wants to play, and he should play. He should play in a situation where he can get some minutes. So, yeah, Bol, I just want to see him stick and see if he can get some minutes. Julio Cesar, salute. I wish they'd give IQ an opportunity to start next to Brunson. I think that boat may have sailed, but yeah, I could see why you definitely high on that combination. A little bit small. Pretty small backcourt, but offensively it'd be probably one of our best looks. Shooting wise, floor spacing, defense with quickly solid. But I'm high on Quentin Grimes as third year coming up. That's going to be big for us. Yeah, if obviously if he's here, we continue to go back and forth over or not whether these guys are going to be here. And for those just coming through the door, salute, welcome as well. Appreciate you rocking out with us. Day 6 NBA free agency. MSG Networks is doing a special tomorrow night, which is going to be good. Hope maybe Alan Hahn will give some more quotes on on the Paul George situation and what he's heard. But I think they've chosen their clips carefully here. They got Randall, Hart, Hart, Brunson in this clip, which if any indications and very credible reporting from Fred Katz, this ain't no speculation. This is confirmed reports that the New York Knicks have formed built some packages around their promising young guys, RJ, Quickly, maybe even Mitchell Robinson, we don't know. And there are notable omissions from this MSG Networks clip from their off-season special tomorrow night. And then just quickly retouching again on the Alan Hahn situation with Paul George. It does seem like the LA Times report does line up with what Hahn was saying, that the Knicks had that chance. Maybe it was just initial discussions where the Clippers tried to see if they could fleece the Knicks first. The Knicks being patient as always, hesitant, backed away. The price wasn't right. So let's see if the Clippers then maybe their price comes back down. That's the advantage, I guess, from not getting a deal done so early in the off season and just waiting it out a little bit. You never know. You just never know. Another thing I'm always constantly hearing, next burning question, is Leon Rose asleep at the wheel? I'm trying to capture all forms of Knicks thoughts and fandom and Twitter reactions with this episode tonight. So, and this may not just be this off season. People maybe wanted Leon Rose to get more aggressive from earlier. People were upset they didn't get DeJounte Murray. They were hesitant with that move. What other moves did the Knicks not get in on? Maybe there are small forms of fans that want the Knicks to get in on Harden or Dame, or should have, even more so, should have gone all in on Spider. I know people, even in the media, thought it was a home run to get Spider. They should have gone all in still, even with the season Jalen Brunson had. So, for me, Leon Rose is a different kind of cat. Let's put it out there. He's a different kind of guy. He moves slower. He's a former lawyer, or had his law degree. I think Leon Rose is a sharp guy. He's pretty smart. He's not outspoken. He's not out there talking, which I do have an issue with. I do prefer Leon Rose to speak a bit at times, but in terms of being asleep at the wheel, I think there are some deals he's definitely missed out on, or what I would have loved him to get in on. But the facts is we never really know what the reports are. What the confirmed facts are from these reports as well. So I kind of feel like Leon Rose, a lot of things don't leak that are actually happening. There's discussions. There's been less leaks in the front office also. But for people that have wanted him to make that bigger swing and get that guy sooner, I could understand their frustrations with Leon Rose and this front office. That'll tie into another question just coming up shortly. But from where I sit, from this perspective with Leon Rose, I think I really think the next year is critical. And if the Knicks don't get aggressive and make that upgrade in the next 6 to 12 months, then I can kind of agree with this question. So it's a fine balance for me right now. With is Leon Rose asleep at the wheel? Um, Now he was obviously patient with Jalen Brunson. He kind of probably, through inside connections knew that was a done deal, and he waited till last year's draft. He shed salary, traded fourth, second round picks, let go of Alec Burks to get Jalen Brunson in here. So he's operating on moves that he knows are gonna are sure things, moves that are gonna come in. But should he get more aggressive with all these draft picks, like Keith says, he should in the next 3 to 6 months. I don't really see any advantage to the Knicks being too patient and holding on to all these picks for too long, because eventually, again, your window's going to get closer and closer, and then it's going to close. Right now, I don't think necessarily the Knicks' contention window is open, but we can open that window with the next move, with Jalen Brunson in here earning peanuts. Let's keep it real. 22, what's he earning? 20 mil per, 25 mil per. We got Mitchell Robinson on a dirt cheap contract. We got Julius Randle on a pretty cheap contract. Movable contracts with RJ and Quickly. So that's why I do think Leon Rose is considering all things. But he's, from the report today with Fred Katz and the talks with the Clippers with Paul George, he is active. So is he asleep? I would say no. But is he being too patient? Let's see. The next 6 months is critical. Critical for me. Dirty Dancer Salute says Leon is winning moves on the margins lately, which is fine, as long as he seizes that big opportunity. Yep, 100%, that's critical. Now, is there any opportunity that went by that he didn't seize? The two biggest ones I named, DeJounte Murray and Donovan Mitchell. I think that Donovan Mitchell thing, it's always going to be a conversation until maybe Donovan Mitchell finally becomes a New York Knick, maybe as a cheaper trade or as a free agent. But yeah, certainly Leon Rose wasn't brought in here to just, stand pat for only so long. We're getting into that critical evaluation period for Leon Rose and for this front office, because it's, not only because it's his third year, or his fourth off season, or coming into his fourth season, but it's the fact that the Knicks are good now. The Knicks are good. We can't go back. We've made steps forward, and there's going to be even more pressure if he takes steps back. So that's critical as well. With the cap and all these different hurdles around the league. One thing I do want to note is also, we hear filthy reports from, other teams wanting too much from the Knicks as well. So I do want that to be a factor in people's consideration as well. I mean, if you want Leon Rose to be really active, he could be active, but do you want him to overpay? That's the thing. What if the Clippers said, I want 3 unprotected picks, I want RJ Quickly, and we want Grimes? You mean to tell me you're not hanging up the phone as well? So that needs to be considered. Danny Ainge, we know, wanted to fleece the New York Knicks. He didn't really want to deal in good faith, and he liked the deal he got with Cleveland, which was a solid deal for the Jazz. But could you blame him for not going all in at that point? I think it's pretty harsh to say. Considering Spider Mitchell was a questionable fit next to Jalen Brunson. So Leon Rose was patient then. He did sit that one out. So I think that does factor in. A lot of people say he's asleep at the wheel. But yeah, we just don't know all the details sometimes. But in terms of what Dirty's saying, seizing the moment, and also what Jay's saying, sometimes you have to overpay. I think those two are true as well. If it's your guy and it's the right guy, the right time, then absolutely go all in, strike. Let's say it's Joel Embiid. Let's say it was someone like let's say it was someone like SGA, Shea Gilgeous, Brandon Ingram. maybe Zion is their kind of guy. Those are the kind of deals where you may have to overpay because they're younger as well. But we've got to factor in Paul George's kind of in his twilight years as well. Also, so that leads into doing deals around the league ain't easy. I mean, there's only a handful of teams that have done solid deals with the Knicks. I think the Knicks could have got more for Porzingis back in the day. I know that wasn't a Leon Rose deal, but I just sort of use as an example of other teams trying to fleece the Knicks constantly. Um, yeah, just to recap the Grant Williams to Dallas deal, Chris says he's a player we should have went after. He would have been a perfect pickup to replace Obi. I agree, he would have been a great pickup. I think, salary cap issues would have hurt, would have prevented that from happening. But yeah, the Evan Fournier salary we know can be a factor with the Knicks freeing up some money. I know, a lot of fans are still upset with the Obi situation. We'll continue to talk about that. Now, next burning question coming up. Who's the GM at the moment? A lot of people have no idea what's happening. Does it matter in question? So we know Scott Perry's finished, he's done. In terms of the GM right now, so that each front office in the NBA is constructed differently. A general manager to one team is not necessarily the same power in another organization. Some organizations, for example, don't have a prez. They just have the GM basically run the team. Now, that's not the case with the New York Knicks. The GM was never the dude that's going to run basketball ops. That's Leon Rose, who's the president. So the GM's basically for the Knicks is a guy who, has a heavy say, heavy input, but is going to do mainly most of the legwork, the groundwork, the phone calls, the speaking to agents, speaking to players, putting forth his evaluations to Leon. But it's Leon Rose's call. So for me, that question's kind of redundant. Who's the GM? It really don't matter with the New York Knicks. It's the buck's always going to stop with Leon Rose, no matter what. Yeah, Mark Berman also told us Scott Perry lost power as the years went by. He wasn't traveling with the team. He wasn't around as much. Definitely would have, given his input. He would have scouted and done all those things. But yeah, in terms of the Knicks GM, right now it's kind of a de facto interim GM, Gerson Rosas, I think, who's a senior advisor alongside William Wesley, who's also another guy with a huge voice in that locker room. So that answers that question. Jay also says Rosas is the GM. What's good, sincere? CAA, basically the GM. Yeah, with Leon up in here. Kerry says make Allen Houston the GM. I think they're going to definitely give Houston a look at some point in the future as well. He's done his dues. But yeah, with Rosas, so he was former president of Minnesota. He's worked with Tibbs. Yes, a very smart guy. He's had his issues in the league before, but I think the chemistry between Leon, him, and Tibbs they like. So I could see Rosas being official at some point, but I'd love to see Houston, continue to get better at that. But yeah, I agree with also your sincere. We don't really need that GM. It doesn't matter. So next question. Does one of RJ, Randall, or Mitch have to go? I'd love to get your thoughts on this situation. I think it's a pretty easy question to answer. Have to go for what? Have to go for us to win a chip? Absolutely. Maybe one or two of them need to go because I don't think I don't think they're good enough as a tandem, as a trio, to get the Knicks to a championship level. Now, Eastern Conference Finals, possibly second round again, definitely. RJ Barrett can take a major leap. I'm still of the mindset that RJ Barrett, can have an all-star career, can still get to an all-star level, maybe not 4-time all-star, maybe a 1 or 2-time all-star. I saw glimpses in the playoffs. I think it's just a consistency thing with RJ. Can he continue to grow? Can he continue to improve the three-point shooting and defense and weaknesses? And yeah, he's 22, 23. I think I could see a 27, 28-year-old RJ Barrett, in all-star contention. But fit is the most important thing with RJ. And that's why I think out of these three, if one of them got to go, I think it's RJ because of fit. Now, fit also meaning if, let's say, like the Obi situation, you want what's best for RJ in terms of fit for him to take his game to the next level. And I don't think that's no longer with the New York Knicks as well because of usage. You can't get better as a player unless a guy like RJ who thrives with the ball. To get his usage to the next level, maybe a team like a young Toronto Raptors who are rebuilding potentially with Scotty Barnes, RJ back in Canada, growing with Scotty Barnes could be an ideal fit. A guy that's basically going to get all the shots he wants, all the usage he needs to take his game to the next level. And we got Brunson's heavy isolation play, and we got Julius Randle's heavy isolation play as well. So I think that comes down to that. Now, could the Knicks win with RJ and Randle and another star with Jalen Brunson also? Then yeah, the Knicks could certainly still win with RJ. But where we're sitting right now, my thoughts are that out of these three, if one of them got to go for the Knicks to make that next upgrade, it's likely to be RJ Barrett. Now, like I said, if you swap Mitch with Joel Embiid, that's a different story. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, guys? Knicks 26 champs. RJ will be gone by the deadline. If we're reading into Fred Katz's talk today that the Knicks are building packages around young players, we already know RJ was in the Spider deal as well. So yeah, the writing is on the wall. In fact, even more so with this MSG clip today as well. If you want to watch closely with the MSG marketing, you would think they would put a big young piece in some of their marketing right now, but they've got Brunson, they've got Hart, who they know they're going to lock up, and Randle. They've basically got guys who they know are going to be on the team next year that are sure things. Yeah, RJ is a fourth option. But I don't think he'd be fine with that. Yeah, he shouldn't be. I think, RJ Barrett's full of confidence. That's what I love about him. He'll always take the big shot. He'll always keep shooting. That's where I think ultimately RJ can get to an all-star level. As long as your confidence ain't broke, you have a chance. Ben Simmons' confidence is out the door, and he's not reaching all-star level anymore. So yeah, RJ needs the usage. He needs the confidence to continue to grow. He'll always be a bully slashing to the cup. If he was playing next to a Joel Embiid and the James Harden as the third option, I think that would be legit for RJ. A legit floor spacing, a legit stars around him, and I think RJ Barrett could be the third guy on a championship team. But let's see. Yeah, in terms of RJ's age and his value around the league, and we already talked about the Knicks wanting to get fleeced by other teams. It's disappointing, but where the other teams are never going to value the Knicks pieces as much as we do. So that also needs to be said. And I could also see both Mitchell Robinson making way for that next upgrade. Obviously, we know Joel Embiid is probably the biggest, the pot of gold that the Knicks are eyeing. But yeah, Julius Randle, I could really see him playing out the rest of his contract now. So it's RJ and Mitch. Maybe one of them, maybe two of them have to go in terms of spacing and fit as well. If RJ Barrett improves drastically with catch and shoot, then he could be a better fit with Randall and with Brunson. Usage on the ball, he won't get as much touches, but that also means he might play a lot of backup for the earlier question. One of the main reasons why I don't necessarily think the Knicks need a backup for is because RJ Barrett could really get more minutes with the bench unit. And for his growth, let's see if he can carry the bench unit a lot more. And, ideally keep Brunson and Randall more healthy. I know we talked about how, solid Randall was in terms of trying to play all 82. But is playing all 82 really an achievement that you should be striving for? Given the fact that he was gimp in the playoffs, got in with an ankle injury and some concerns. One has to question, should we try to give Randall more rest? We don't need to be playing him 40 minutes and all 82 if he's going to be gimp in the playoffs. So versatility for Tibbs, it's going to be a huge year for Tom Thibodeau. And lo and behold, that leads us into the next burning question. Is Tibbs to blame for Obi outcome? This is going to be a big one. Yes, in a short form, the answer is yes. But for me, Tom Thibodeau is not the only guy to blame as well. It's the front office. The front office, and I feel like Tibbs is both to blame for two different reasons. The front office probably first for, waiting too long. For one, for maybe making the selection. Let's say you're not even high on Obi Toppin. The Knicks may be making that selection in terms of not considering the right fit. Not considering Julius Randle was, under contract for heavy money on the team. And then obviously the second thing is, while we had Obi, why wasn't Tom Thibodeau or the front office forcing him to, experiment a little bit more? We basically allowed an asset to depreciate so bad that we only got 2 second-round picks. And Obi has a little bit of blame on himself as well. He's not the perfect player. But in terms of full blame, I think it's front office, and I think it's Tom Thibodeau. Because, again, the front office should be forcing a coach to form to the decision they've made, which is, invest heavily in an asset, the 8th overall selection. Now, Obi's got certain skill sets. I know, there are certain areas he can't fit. He's not a rim protector. He's not known to be defensively stout. But, could he help the team in other areas? Pick and roll. Could they have, not just, sat him out in the perimeter to shoot threes? Most definitely. In terms of minutes distribution was crazy too. Lucas hits on, the Randall minutes, I think. But, with Randall's reduction in minutes would have given Obi more minutes. And that would have boosted his trade stock around the league. Right. Now, I've been closely watching some Indiana Pacers pods and, and just trying to get other people's thoughts on the players that they acquired from the New York Knicks. And it's funny, when they're on the New York Knicks, they're trash. But, we got Obi for a couple second-round picks. It's a steal. It's suddenly the other teams are high on the New York Knicks guys, when they get. But why wouldn't you? Because, getting Obi for a couple of second-round picks is basically a bag of chips. They're not going to miss those picks at all. So, Tom Thibodeau messed that up a lot, and so did the front office. In terms of what else would I've tried to use, where else would I've tried to use Obi more? Obviously, there was moments when Julius Randle was struggling. That was definitely a huge point. That's a check. I think Obi had a pretty solid first playoffs against Atlanta. Maybe that would have been a fork in the road to decide after we flamed out in Atlanta and Julius Randle, we know, had a bad playoffs. That would have been a great time to then, use that off season to maybe even try to get a protected first for Obi or something, or make that decision as well. Yeah. So for me, the Tibbs and the front office is both to blame. Organic salute. Randle should have played Randle 27 minutes with Obi 20 minutes per night. Also, like I talked with EJ, you got to be hesitant picking drafting players now that only form one position, unless they've got real high floor, high ceiling as well. It's that kind of league now where you're can be a square peg in a round hole, that kind of thing, in terms of trying to fit and adapt. The sad thing is, we don't Obi and Randall together could have been quite dynamic. We just, the question is always going to remain. We never saw it enough. We never saw Obi and Randall together enough. We know it's not going to be good defensively, but for 10, 15 minutes per night is all it would have taken. I even think Obi small ball 5 with the bench lineup would have been better as well. And we invested, $8 million into Hartenstein as well. A further move that limited the opportunities for Obi. Because when is a time where you can get away with playing small ball is with the bench lineup for me. Not many bench lineups play a bruising big. If you look around the league, most benches try to get up and down, try to put up points fast. So you could escape with Obi Toppin's minutes with the bench lineup at the 5. And then if you do want to use floor spacing and have Obi shoot more, it's a better fit, I think, at the 5 as well. So we continue this discussion as well. The next burning question leading into the front office. Has the front office been good, bad, or in between? Now, this is a very, very interesting one, as we talked about earlier with Leon asleep at the wheel. Now we're coming into the 4th year of the Leon Rose regime. I'll highlight some of the things I like and have disliked. But the first thing is, obviously, we hired Leon Rose to do the job, and I think the positive is that James Dolan, from what we've seen, has stayed out of the way. It's been a different kind of front office drama. If there's been drama, it used to be Dolan did this, Dolan interfered, Dolan was whack. He let Phil Jackson go on too long, or he pulled the plug. He fired the coach, all of those things. So he's let Leon Rose do the job that Leon Rose is brought in to do. So this is basically falling squarely on Leon Rose and the people he's brought in. What was his first move? He hired Tom Thibodeau. So, Tom Thibodeau obviously won Coach of the Year in his first year, I think. Is a 2-time Coach of the Year now. Got the Knicks to the playoffs 2 times. We'll talk about Tibbs in the next thing. But in terms of the front office, I think it's brought stability. We are moving in the right direction. We're moving a little slow at this point, but we're moving in the right direction. And some of the good things they've done is obviously hire some smart dudes, and let them do their job. Walt Perrin, Brock Aller, Frank Zanon, and we'll get to Wesley and that in a minute. But just some of these executives that have done experience around the league have done well. We saw the Knicks do moves that we never saw them do in the past. Like taking on Ed Davis for 2 second-round picks. Using trade exceptions and things like that. Cat maneuvering, basically, that Brock Aller has been able to do. Unfortunately, he hasn't probably had the biggest voice and has mismanaged a lot of assets. So the Cam Reddish thing, we talked about the Obi Toppin thing. Front office disconnect between the coach and upper management in terms of philosophy, but not putting the clamps down So you hired Tom Thibodeau, which you could grade as maybe a solid move, but you've not really let him, or you've not surrounded him with Tibbs guys. You've given money to Evan Fournier, who was a bad signing, bad fit. You doubled down on Nerlens Noel, injury prone. We don't know. Maybe Tom Thibodeau lobbied for that. Tom Thibodeau wanted Reggie Bullock back, and you didn't listen. You brought in Cam Reddish, who was the anti-Reggie Bullock as well. And then maybe you listened to Tibbs too much. You gave Derrick Rose 15 milli when that was maybe a sentimental thing. And then you could consider the drafting, of course. Solid in the late first round, but Obi situation is going to be tied to Leon Rose forever, I think, because I don't think he's had a higher draft pick since then. The Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, Kristaps, was the Steve Mills, Scott Perry regime. And so far, has Leon really utilized, the connections that, he was supposedly going to bring to this club? Not yet. Not yet. Obviously the Jalen Brunson thing is kind of different. I look at that in a separate nutshell because there's, the family ties and all of those things. Rick Brunson was his very first basketball client. So there's always those connections. But yeah, can Leon Rose get us that next star that has no connections, that is just wanting to come to the New York Knicks? And that's going to be something that, is evaluated on. So my answer to that has been good, it's been bad, it's in between right now. It could be bad on a day and it can be good on another day, which you could, maybe grade as being too inconsistent. Pretty inconsistent. Like I said, there is some black marks on the Tibbs Leon, connection in terms of not seeing eye to eye on certain things. And maybe will we continue to see some of that? I think we might, infighting over, certain picks and players and things like that, and maybe not looking outside of the box. A versatile guy like Grant Williams. Maybe there are guys that Leon wants that Tibbs doesn't want, and maybe vice versa as well. And then the William Wesley thing. The William Wesley thing's fascinating because, there's a lot of people in the industry that look up to Wes, respect Wes, but there are also people that think he's, don't think much of him. I don't know if you guys remember, but he might have a personal beef, but Steph Marbury went in and called him a sucker, and those kinds of things. So William Wesley has a huge voice in this organization. Leon Rose trusts him a lot, but yeah, do the Knicks like to look outside of the box? He does like to listen to Wes a lot in terms of Kentucky stuff. Dudes that we look at and don't look at, those kind of things. So I hope we give more of a voice to the smart executives that have done things around the league, the Perrins, the Brock Allers, Frank Zannons as well, and the top guys like Tibbs and Wes and Leon don't get too caught up in the sentiment kind of thing. Remember, we're running a business as well. It's good to look after your own, but to a certain level, that becomes a detriment, and that becomes a detriment around the league. If this Zach LaVine thing ends up to be really true, and we miss out on a guy who, or in future guys, possibly if you don't like Zach LaVine, if we miss out on dudes that don't want to come here because they don't like CAA, or they don't like the way we move, showing up to playoff games, sitting front row, kind of things, that's going to be an issue also. Yeah, Wesley also wanted to fire Tibbs. Spot on, Marvin. That's another issue too. We talked about the three of the big loudest voices in this organization not seeing eye to eye on certain things. So yeah, best believe Tibbs is really under pressure this year, I think. If Tibbs doesn't match what he did, what we achieved, and I do think that there could be some rumblings. Also, Leon Rose is his own man, and I won't rule out, giving Leon Rose credit I won't rule out maybe he ends up just getting fed up and he says, look, Wes, look, the time's come now, you need to step back a little bit. You can be my best friend, or you could give me advice like Isaiah Thomas gave Dolan advice, but I need you to step back a little bit now, and I'm gonna do it this way. Or it could be the other way, he ends up firing Tibbs. But I like to think that Leon, with the best interest of the organization and being the president, is gonna do what he feels is best, right? There's a lot of voices. There's a lot of potential pitfalls with how we move as well. So yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting to continue to see. Now, what have we got? The next burning question is: should I doubt whether Tibbs is the right coach to lead the Knicks to the promised land? Absolutely, have every right to doubt, is Tibbs the right coach? Not discrediting what he's achieved and Tibbs' accomplishments and pedigree as a coach. It's just purely in the sample size that what we've seen, what Tibbs has shown us to be doing, the way he moves, the way he likes to coach, quite rigid in certain ways. Going back to the playoffs, regular season, there were some things that we talked about with Obi, playing Julius Randle on the floor a little bit too late in games, blowouts with 2 minutes remaining, up 13. There'd be RJ Barrett, Julius Randle on the floor. Other coaches like Popovich would have brought all the bench mob, mop up duty, come on. Tom Thibodeau wants to win every minute of every game. I love the fact that he's competitive. He's got roots in New York. He knows what this thing's all about. But he just seems to be so damn stubborn sometimes. He seems to be so damn stubborn. And that gives you every right to doubt whether he is the right coach, to lead this thing. Until he shows us otherwise, then again, he does some good things. He's definitely a solid coach. But winning a championship is next level kind of stuff, I feel. So, yeah, I'm not here to throw shade on Tibbs and say he's not a good coach at all, because that would be incorrect. The guy knows how to coach, but is his style, is his philosophy the best fit? Is he suited to lead the New York Knicks to their next championship? Or is the next guy in waiting, Jay Wright, Johnny Bryant, maybe coming in the next 2 years? And this is going to be tying into the next question coming up soon. As the Knicks improve and we get better, and every move we make right now becomes even more important. Let me, before we move on, let's shout some people out about this one. Sincere says Tibbs is the coach we need. That one player, that 25 and 15 player. Yeah. Dirty says Tibbs is a bridge, always been hired to just raise the floor. Yeah, and that he's done. That he's done. But yeah, it's wise to consider what's next. One thing I do want to point out about Tibbs, and I was disappointed in his man management of Julius Randle. I know it's difficult now, man. It's a players' league. We're seeing it all over the place. Monty Williams get fired, Doc Rivers get fired. The list goes on and on. We could be here forever. Tom Thibodeau has certainly warranted points in the season to be let go if these other star coaches are getting let go. But ultimately, I think when Tibbs' time is up, it's going to be because of his, him losing the locker room. I think he's shown what he's shown in the eyes of Leon to be able to help us win. But I think it's about what the players are going to end up feeling about Tom Thibodeau. And let's say, the players run the team eventually, if they continue to fall short, let's say we bring in a Joel Embiid and a Donovan Mitchell, and we continue to fall short with Tibbs, then I think Tibbs' time will be up, kind of thing. So I think it'll be up to the players. Yeah, what's good ghetto intellect? Tibbs is here to change the culture. Well done. Yeah, it's interesting how there are a big group of players around the league that still have mad respect for Tibbs as well. Maybe some of the more older school players that, you know, value work ethic, certain things, in what they like to do, like a Josh Hart, these Villanova guys, you know. Um, it's interesting how a workhorse like Deuce McBride can see eye to eye with Tibbs, but a finesse, skillful player like Cam Reddish does not see eye to eye with Tibbs as well. Um, yeah, it's going to continue to happen around the league. There's good coaches that will always get fired because of the players. But if you want to look at Tibbs's, we got to address his X's and O's. Um, X's and O's wise is another main reason why I think it's wise to look in another direction, because let's keep it real. What's his schemes in the playoffs? It's read, it's react, it's trust the pass, it's create floor spacing, which is all good things, good fundamentals to look into. But let's keep it real. You got to be more nuanced than that, right? There are countless plays in the playoffs, countless adjustments, countless obstacles with injuries, etc. Can he get versatile? Should Evan Fournier have played some minutes? Should Derrick Rose have played? He was short-handed with quickly out, kind of thing. Should he have been willing to sit Randall more when he would have knew that ankle was bung, and he let Randall continue on that bung ankle, kind of thing. So yeah, I think Tibbs is a good guy. He knows how to coach. He's just too stubborn, I think, at some points. And his ability to adjust is always going to be suspect until he shows us otherwise. Lucas, salute. Yeah, Miami show us Tibbs have no adjustments. Yep, less adjustments as well. Eventually, you run out of excuses. If you give Tibbs an elite roster, he's going to have to win. And if we bring in the next star and he can't win, then I think that's going to be the end of the road. If he continues to if he continues to get us to an Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals, I could see him sticking, kind of thing as well. Yeah, salute to the best chat. The streets is buzzing. Day 6, smashing that like button. We're going to talk about later in the show a summer league. The Knicks don't play till Saturday. We'll talk about that and a little bit more about the reports into which star the Knicks could be, which teams we could be having conversations with, etc. The next question is, when is the nearest realistic year you think the Knicks can win it? Now, the hopeful in me is 25-26, which is we're coming up to 23-24 now, and then there's 24-25, so and then 25-26. So that basically matches the window when Jalen Brunson is eligible to get paid big, kind of thing, and most likely the Knicks will have their next star in the house as well. So I think that is the most realistic, nearest year that the Knicks can be looking at being title contenders as well. In my opinion, in terms of realistic, of course, I think the Knicks can make noise this year. I'm not trying to dampen no one's hopes. Let's go on a run. Let's shake up Vegas and all of those things and all the haters. But I think it's we've got to see that next move. If the Knicks get Joel Embiid this offseason, then it's realistic. If the Knicks have this roster this year, it's not realistic. But I think, realistically, I'm looking at 25-26. Yeah, shout out to 26 Knicks champs as well. I think that's going to be a big year for the Knicks. I think everything's lining up for the Knicks to be perennial contenders from that year on, I think. And if the New York Knicks are not perennial contenders by 25-26, that could be the end of the road for Leon, for Tibbs, for everyone. That'll be a 5th, 6th year regime as well if we don't have the studs, I think, in-house, man. Yeah, Hulu says this roster as currently constructed is nowhere close. Let's be honest. But we are one star away. That's from being a contender. So, and that window opening. So it's kind of a tricky question at this point. But I'm looking at it from like the roster right now, basically. Best of worst, salute. Yet the Nova York gang are winners all day, every day. I would not be surprised to the least be in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Yeah, a lot's going to have to go right, but I could see it happening. I could see a world where the Knicks get further. I really think it was a missed opportunity against the Heat. If we keep it real, um, yeah, we'll continue to reflect on it now that it's sort of the hurt has died down for me. But we see Gabe Vincent, we see Max Strauss now on new teams. It's crazy. We see the Heat possibly get Dame, which we'll chop up in a minute, and what's going to happen for the rest of the offseason. As a matter of fact, we hit that question now. So that's the end of the Knicks burning questions. If there's anything else, drop it in the chat and we can hit on it. But that's just what I've come up with for now. We'll continue this maybe in a part 2 if you guys feel it. But the final question around the league is, does Dame end up on the Heat? And does James Harden end up on the Clippers? All indications to me are pointing towards that happening now. It's getting ugly with Dame now with Portland, and I think there's optimism. I think there's hope from the Heat side and around the league that the Heat could conjure up an extra asset. And the most important thing is the third team to take on Tyler Hero. I think because with Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, and Shadon Sharp, the Portland Trailblazers don't want Tyler Hero, which is fair enough. They don't. Where are they going to fit him in? So the best hope is that they reroute him, and another team who would, like a Brooklyn, would love to have a young asset like Tyler, and then they could maybe send Portland some more candy. That's going to be what gets it done, I think. So I'll put it at maybe 70-30. He ends up in the Heat. He ends up with the Heat. As we know, it's never a done deal until it's a done deal. Some team could swoop in and Dame could agree, such as one of the LA teams, for example. Boston seemed to be very interested in exploring that as well. Steve Ballmer and the Clippers, I know, has high ambitions as well. So the thing is, I would say if I'm the Heat, I would try to get this done as soon as possible. The longer the offseason goes, we kind of get the feeling that other teams can kind of jump in and do that. And with Harden on the Clippers, that's a little bit more tricky because what are they sending back? Like what is Philly getting in return? A bag of chips? No. And if they have to part with Tyrese Maxey as well, they don't want to do that. It's going to be Harden, and they're hoping, they're praying that they can get a star quality player back to salvage this process that they lost Ben Simmons for. Joel Embiid hanging on by a thread with his knees. So yeah, that's an interesting situation. I do think probably Harden 50-50 ends up on the Clippers. We know Daryl Morey's trying badly to get him to stay. So we've chopped up the Fred Katz news. The Knicks are being very active around the league. They're not forcing the issue, but they're more than willing to package some young players and some picks, assumedly, to target prime age veterans they believe would help this current roster. I think that narrows it down quite a lot. I think, with Tibbs, with Leon, I think OG Anunoby being a new CAA client has to be in the mix. Toronto's in flux, and I think the Knicks are discussing things with them. reports say that Pascal Siakam is also very available. But yeah, it comes down to how much does Ujiri want, and what did the Knicks need to give up? If it's RJ and it's quickly and some picks in any kind of deal, that's something I can stomach if we're getting a star player back. If it's parting with Quentin Grimes, though, is a different story for me. It better be a Joel Embiid type level guy. There's no need to be giving up a Quentin Grimes in a Paul George, James Harden, Damian Lillard kind of situation as well. And as Alan Hahn also touched on ESPN Radio, the Knicks very much had a chance to get Paul George. They backed away. The extension was the worry on their behalf for future salary purposes and kind of things. So the Knicks may have a bigger insight as to what star in the future might want to come to the Knicks, and they're worried about that Paul George commitment, I think, because it's got to be that only and that only. I don't think the Knicks would have any questions over Paul George upgrade, Paul George the fit. It's got to be the dollars making sense, I think, with that. So yeah, with that said, let's chop up the moves, the roster at the moment, and what the Knicks can do heading in to day 7 and beyond of free agency. We're at 14 roster spots. We're at the hard cap, the tax apron. So the big move today was Grant Williams going to to Dallas. Reggie Bullock going to San Antonio, which is, his $10 million salary is going to the Spurs books now. So they're very unlikely to want to take an Evan Fournier unless the Knicks can maybe sweeten the deal for a Doug McDermott swap. So if I had to guess, I don't see a more minute move like that happening. I think it's the bigger consolidation trade coming. So who are the teams? Who are the guys who you could realistically see in this situation being discussed with the New York Knicks now? If we look around the league, obviously Toronto are in flux. I'd keep an eye out on OKC. I would really keep an eye out on OKC because at some point they're going to get to a situation where they've got to make some decisions on a few guys. Do they believe the core of Josh Giddey, SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren is enough? And is there any other pieces that are available around there? Because remember, Fred Katz report didn't necessarily say star. It says the Knicks building packages around promising young players to target prime-aged veterans as well. Prime-aged veterans. So knowing Tom Thibodeau, he wants that upgrade ASAP. He'd be willing to probably take guys that aren't stars, but guys who he trusts a lot more. And this is just what I've heard from some of the beat reporters, but Tom Thibodeau has his certain thoughts towards Randall, Mitch, and Barrett himself, and he's not fully sold on Barrett. He's not fully sold on Randall either, but we know Randall's a more difficult situation. So knowing that, I think if a player like an OG is available, I think Tibbs is going to pick him over Barrett and Barrett's game. The Siakam one is interested. I would welcome Pascal Siakam if it means Julius Randle is no longer on the team, meaning that Pascal is better fitted at the 4. I would not swing the trade for Siakam to play him at the 3, because I think that's going to be very clunky with Pascal and Julius and Mitch also. What's good, JJP? Yeah, some of these more minor moves could be a veteran minimum guy and a Trendon Watford as a backup power forward would be great. 100%. Yep, that'd be great. Take a flyer on him. definitely. We're in the business of talent acquisition still, and he's solid. Um, Looks to be really solid, and also he's a fit. We need a nice guy who's going to be happy with, you know, reduced minutes off the bench, guys who can bring a certain skill set like rebounding, shooting. Um, but yeah, with that said, do not sleep on Isaiah Roby, who we get to see from this Saturday Summer League. I think Isaiah Roby's um, got a solid future in the league. He can stroke it. He's 6'8", moves really well for a power forward. He kind of moves like a Kyle Kuzma kind of thing. He's not a lumbering, bruising power forward. He's more of a Kevin Knox build, um, Kyle Kuzma type type build, moving around, can shoot it smooth, really smooth off the shoot, um, catch and shoot. But he can also move in transition quite well. He's got some skills. Yep, I think he's nice on the low, just like Coach said, and I think we're going to get a chance to see, as we'll talk about summer league in a minute, as we pivot towards that. But in terms of maybe some other minor moves we could see too, the Fournier situation is still there. Let's say they do like someone that fits into that salary, they can make that swap. But I think Fournier's salary is kept for a larger deal. But they can waive or trade Daquan Jeffries. They could trade Jericho Sims if they want. Out of Jalen Martin, who they've signed now, there's Jacob Toppin also, who picked up an injury. So what I've noticed in the past, they usually bring these guys into Exhibit 10 training camp, and then they evaluate, and then they cut a guy if they're not happy, or they're not sold on what they see. Um, yeah, Isaiah Roby is one to look out for summer league. Um, yeah, we asked the question: do the Knicks need a backup for? I think we can get by without, but I think it would be good if we did pick up another young talent to give us a little bit more assurance, like a Trend and Watford um, kind of thing. But on the positive, could that mean that the Knicks are willing to play a certain way off the bench, like up and down, small ball? Um, that's something that has actually surprised some fans. Why we're we're asking the question: do we need a backup for? Because we don't have a really a clear guy that's ready to step up, take that. That's a traditional four. Um, do they bring in a Bakataj Gibson for a veterans minimum? I wouldn't be shocked if that happens, but I do hope that we continue trying to develop some younger guys. Obi was a young guy. Let's let's replace him with a guy that has some upside. We missed out on the Grant Williams thing, we know, but yeah, obviously Tibbs loves Josh Hart, so get ready to see him play 35 minutes. He's probably going to love DiVincenzo. Get ready to see him play 30 minutes, possibly off the bench too. So there's plenty of minutes to be had, um, which is why we don't necessarily need the backup for. But I hope Isaiah Roby gets that look, because yeah, I think people they're gonna like what they see. Um, yeah, David's not happy that we didn't pick up Grant Williams. Yeah, I think the Mavericks could offer him the full mid level as well. We did definitely use that up now on DiVincenzo, but Bodega, Jalen Martin was coached by former Nick from Florida, Charlie Ward. So salute to him. He looks nice. 6'6", good size, 19, looks athletic, is just raw. Um, let's see how the shooting is, but the shooting was the weak spot. But finishing, getting to the cup looks pretty solid. He looks like a really solid development guy to keep. I want to see how he looks against grown men, or bigger guys in summer league, because the one concern with Jalen Martin was he played overtime elite, which was against high school guys and young dudes as well. I would be happy taking a flyer on Bol Bol. Um, that'd be something where the Knicks are looking outside of their circle. That would make me happy. He can shoot. We need some shooting at the big man spot as well. Some versatility with Obi now gone. Yeah. I also peeped the Isaiah Roby highlights. So yeah, check them out. He had a season. It wasn't last season, but the season before when Roby was with OKC, he averaged 10 points per game coming off the bench, which was fairly solid. I don't know how much Obi averages off the bench, but if we could bring a dude off the bench that averages 10 at the power forward spot, that would be solid. And he can shoot as well. Yeah, maybe we get Charlie Ward cousin, try to get some exclusive from Jalen Martin, from Charlie. But the good thing is we finally get to see some action, some Knicks games. Now, I know it's not, it's not exactly a great summer league team for keeping it real. But yeah, it is a situation where we're going to get to see some action. And let's bring up the team. So we don't have like a young draft pick that we've really brought in. Unfortunately, Jacob Toppin is injured. They said minor injury, so we won't see Jacob. But the biggest thing I'm looking for is actually 4 guys are in the current mix for a roster spot, 2-way spot. Daquan Jeffries, Trevor Keels, and of course Roby and Jalen Martin and Jacob Toppin, who's not going to be in the thing, but those 5 guys are going to take up 4 spots. So who's going to miss out? To me, most likely Dwayne Washington loses out one of the 2-way spots. So you can now sign 3 2-way spots. So I think it's probably going to be Jacob Toppin, Martin, and probably Keels or Jeffries. And then I think Roby and the other gets the roster spot. So yeah, Jalen Martin, Jacob Toppin, and probably Keels or Jeffries, and then the other Roby and the other one get a regular roster spot if moves aren't made. So the biggest feature for me now is just to look at what Jalen Martin brings. How does he look against older guys, bigger guys? He had a great playoffs with the overtime elite. He averaged like 26 points in the 3 playoff games with overtime elite. But like I said, it's not even G League level. It's not even college. It may not even be college Division 2. It might be college Division 3. Overtime elite. We know the Thompson twins balled out, and Sissoko, but it's high school guys, it's young guys. So how does Jalen Martin look? If he looks solid, he looks decent, we definitely got a nice piece. The other thing I'm looking out for is the forgotten man, Trevor Keels. Does he look like he's improved? Has he shown any development? Apparently, I'm hearing the Knicks were happy with his development in the G League, and he's supposedly taken some steps. He had a pretty trash summer league the first go around as well, and there's obviously concerns that the Knicks blew that draft pick as well. So, as Dirty says, if Trevor Keels was 6'11", he'd be legit. Yeah, facts. Same could be said for RJ Barrett. And Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, the list goes on. The issue is I think I could see Keels getting cut loose eventually because Keels is 6'4", and what is he really bringing to the table that we don't have? We have 6'5" Grimes, 6'7" Barrett, 6'4" Hart, 6'4" DiVincenzo as well. And I even like what Jeffries brings at 6'5". Based on what I've seen, Daquan Jeffries is more solid, ready to compete than Trevor Keels. yeah, Jeffries is 6'5". I think he's more versatile, can play some three. So that's why Jeffries actually has a full roster spot. Which is, yeah, so it's Martin, Toppin, and Dwayne Washington and Keels in the mix for the 3 two-way spots. And I think Isaiah Roby hopefully gets to keep the roster spot because I think he's needed based on any upgrades we don't make. But Keels is someone I'm going to be interested to see. Has he developed at all? Isaiah Roby is 25 years of age. So I'm looking for is if Isaiah Roby can't be solid or dominate at 25 years of age with 3 seasons in the NBA, then he might not be a player worthy to keep on the roster. So I'm looking for that. Again, you should stand out. If you're a 26, 25-year-old pro who's played ball in the NBA for 2 or 3 seasons, you should look like a man among boys in the summer league. And he's 6'8" and can shoot. So look out for the Knicks' best player to be Isaiah Roby. And yeah, let's see if I think Jeffrey's experience should be solid. And I think I'll be pleasantly surprised if Keels or Jalen Martin look solid. Let me know if you guys know more about the other dudes. I've heard of Foster. I think Foster from Fordham supposedly people are pretty high on what he can bring. There's a Indiana small forward, a wing, Race. I think Race is lacking some athleticism, but he's 6'8". He's a true small forward. He's quite slow, but let's see what he brings. His finishing is solid, but the shooting is an issue. So yeah, one of the weakest summer league spots we've had in a minute. But it's NBA. It's New York's Knicks ball, and it's this Saturday, and it's 4 to 5 guys competing for a roster spot. So yeah, let's see what we do. But yeah, there is some double up. There is some redundancy with some size. With like Ghetto says, like Kills, it's time to show out now. Daquan Jeffries, like how long are we going to persist with, trying to develop him, keeping him on a real roster spot if we're trying to contend? Would it be better to give that to a veterans minimum guy who's, like maybe another Villanova guy, Archie Diacono? That's going to be interesting. But some of these guys are going to get cut. Some of these guys are going to show out. If I had to guess, I'm putting my stock on Isaiah Roby to show us that he's worthy to keep. Another guy, another year of development. Trevor Keels, second year coming in, the clock's ticking. How invested are they? He's 6'4". I just don't know. But yeah, I think Jeffries is quite solid as a pro, 6'5". He might stick around as another two-way. But I think maybe Dwayne Washington's 6'3". And I mean, if we've got Martin, we've got DiVincenzo, we've got Hart, we've got Grimes, we've got Barrett, we've got Brunson, we've got Quickly. What's the point in keeping Dwayne Washington around, who's 6'3"? On his best day can do exactly the same thing. So we've got to start to use these spots wisely now. Now that they give you 3 roster spots, so I think that's going to be important too. Of course, Dice is back, another Tibbs disciple. Wish him some success. We almost won the Summer League chip the other year. I think it's going to be tough goings for Dice this time. We might be copping some 30-point blowouts with some of these squads out here. But let's see. What are your thoughts on this situation, guys? Are you guys going to be watching? Do you not care at all? Just eyeing on what these other prospects are looking like as well. We get to see, I think on Saturday, all eyes are going to be on Wemby, Scoot. I think Brandon Miller has been solid so far. Chet looks okay. keep trying to shake off that rust. Chet Holmgren has put up 12 points, I think, 6 rebounds. It's going to be interesting to see how OKC incorporate all that young talent and all of that. But yeah, we'll keep an eye out on tomorrow. We'll see what the next latest buzz is as MSG hosts a talking point special on free agency, big moves, possibly talking about that. Interesting, yeah, they only had Brunson, Hart, also Randall and Hartenstein on this clip as well. So they know a lot of these young pieces are in discussions right now. To sum up some of the biggest burning questions, are the Knicks done making any more moves? I don't think they're done. I think things are just getting started realistically for a major shake-up. Remember the Donovan Mitchell talks went deep into last off-season throughout the summer league. The Knicks are canvassing the league right now to see if they can pull off a move for a prime age veteran with a package built around their promising young players. Who would you guys like to see? Do you guys want to see the Knicks make that move this year, or are you happy just running it into the season and waiting for another guy who may not have been rumored yet? I think if we are persisting with the Tom Thibodeau thing, I think it's important to get a guy who's going to play, basically, who's going to play a lot of minutes. There's no point bringing in a guy who's anti-Tibbs, like a Cat, a guy like a Harden, a guy who's going to play, dog it sometimes, or play half-assed, or play, only 60 games a season. I think that's going to be critical. So if Harden trade happens, then yeah, let the Embiid watch commence, basically. Yeah. The process is under watch right now. I tweeted yesterday about Philly in the process. Like, I think it really had the potential to work out for them. So not saying that drafting and tanking is not the right way to go. I just said specifically the way it panned out for Philly was a damn failure. If you look at it, so the Philly drafted Michael Carter-Williams, Jahlil Okafor, Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons, Zaire Smith, drafted and traded Mikal Bridges, despite his mum working for the organization. Best believe they would love to do that all over again. Imagine having Joel Embiid with Mikal Bridges and his mum worked for the organization and they traded him. He was happy as Larry to be drafted by the Sixers, only to find out he was traded. They got too cute with that one. Zaire Smith is barely in the league right now. So that's insane. But obviously, you look, the Simmons thing, he was a multiple all-star. They made the right selection then. They're not able to control that Ben Simmons, basically reverted to a different kind of player. Markelle Fultz was a little risky now. I don't know if we're going to see teams take the plunge on very raw 18-year-old prospects. I think dudes are going to stay in college a little bit more unless they're consensus top 5. Jahlil Okafor was a crazy draft, with Cat, KP, and that. If I guess Sam Hinkie should have known with the way the game was going, basically. I know, he would have drawn a lot of criticism passing on Okafor, but with the way the game was going, his game was completely redundant now, like a dinosaur. Post-up play, couldn't shoot at all. Yeah, but with that said, yeah, Joel Embiid is that last remaining piece from the process. How could I forget that as well? Like Jay hits on, man, the best chat in the biz. traded Tatum away. Basically, Philly missed a lot on picks. Drafting a 6'4" power forward over Mikal Bridges was a choice. Tobias Harris making that crazy money as well. Yep. So what are you guys' thoughts overall on the process? It was, good at the time. It landed them so many shots at a top pick. But it hasn't become fruitful. Leon Rose's strategy of trading for a piece could still work, right? I don't think, and that leads into my philosophy. I don't think there's one way only or the best one way that's the best way to build a team. I think it's combination. I think it's always good to start with a solid draft pick, a couple, and hit a home run, and those players develop into rookie extensions and they become studs. That's how you can build a long-term winner, a dynasty. But you can also build a short-term winner with trades and also free agent signings as well. If you keep the books clean and you think about the future and you make consequent moves, or you don't go into moves for certain reasons, Like I said, we don't always get the reports on why did the Knicks not make a trade for DeJounte Murray or for Grant Williams or for this guy. It's maybe because they've got a plan. They've got other moves lined up, and they don't want to use the money. The hope I've got is that Brock Aller is in the building, and Brock Aller is, was dubbed the best at being a capologist, the best at it. He was hired by Cleveland, and he helped LeBron win that chip. LeBron even paid homage to Brock Aller, I think, as well. So, he's thinking about the books. He's thinking about, okay, if we go for this stud, how do we make more moves? Or if we get this guy, what do we have to do to make sure we can upgrade more? All of these things. A lot of it goes into team building as well. Also, I don't want to forget really the fourth way, which is development. These guys on screen, like Miami Heat, they don't get to the NBA Finals last season if they don't develop some of these picks, undrafted signings. I know they lost them, but Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Caleb Martin was a crafty signing. I think everyone's looking out for those guys. Now we got guys like Kelly Oubre, who's still available. And while we're live, let me just pull up the spot track free agents still available. And I can tell you who's still available for what price as we go through the list in terms of top free agent. So we've still got Will Barton, who's available, unrestricted free agent. His previous salary was 14 mil. Unrestricted free agent, non-bird rights. We've got Christian Wood, who's still available. Teams hesitant to spend. He might have to wait to take a pay cut because teams are waiting to see what happens with the Dame situation. Teams are trying to keep some things clean. He was on 13 mil previously. Then third, Kelly Oubre, unrestricted free agent as well, was on 12 mil. So the Knicks could have used the mid-level on Kelly Oubre, but they gave it to DiVincenzo. Of course. Then we got Mo Bamba, Dario Saric. Any of those names interest you? I think Dario Saric can find himself on a team. He can shoot. Mo Bamba, if he was willing to accept the minimum, I would take a flyer on Harlem's own and see if he can stick. Hamidou Diallo, another New York native, is available. Garrett Temple, Kendrick Nunn, still available. Unrestricted free agent Kendrick Nunn was earning 5 mil. Now, if we end up trading quickly, I wouldn't mind Kendrick Nunn as a backup point guard. We need a real true backup still. I don't know how I feel about, DiVincenzo or Hart running the point, or Deuce McBride in the playoffs. I think regular season's fine. But if Quickly's not here, Kendrick Nunn could be had. Ish Smith, let's see. I think he comes back to Denver, and then it becomes slim pickings. We got George Hill, Justice Winslow, Derek Jones Jr. could be had with a bit of extra size, extra length. I would be okay with Derek Jones Jr. coming in. Matisse Thybulle is the biggest domino, I think, to fall, being a restricted free agent. Terms, a lot of teams, a lot of contenders lining up to get Matisse, solid 6'8" defensive wing. That'd be our Dollar Tree OG Anunoby. I think if Tibbs misses out on OG, I think he would love a Matisse Thybulle. And of course, there's another big restricted free agent, which is PJ Washington as well. So talks at Dallas are trying to pick him up, but they've picked up Grant Williams. So I don't know how that's going to go with cap space and PJ Washington being restricted. Kevin Knox could be had for a minimum. Could we rekindle the Kevin Knox situation? Very unlikely with Tibbs not here. With Tibbs here, man. Okay, Thybulle signed with Dallas. Appreciate you guys. That's a great pickup. So they got Thybulle and they got Grant Williams. That's solid work for them. That's crazy. Talk about getting what they need defensively. What's going to happen with Paul Reed? Now we have some news drop. Free agent Mo Bamba has signed the 1-year deal with Philly. Okay. Getting ready for Joel Embiid to leave so they can develop Mo. That's a solid contract for Matisse, 3-year, 33 mil. So what are you guys' thoughts on Dallas? I think they've definitely upgraded, but we just don't know how it's going to play out with Kyrie and Luka. Look, on their best day, that's a crazy duo, Kyrie and Luka. I think they just got to figure it out in terms of being unselfish. They got to know who's taken the last shot. I think Kyrie got to step up as the point guard and really make that decision. Does he take the shot or does he kick it to Luka? I know it's Luka's team, but you're the point guard. Let's not forget that. You got to get Luka in his spots as well. So I'm watching to see, because we know how critical that is, fam, for the New York Knicks. The 10th, that possibly an 11th draft pick, 11th overall draft pick waits for the New York Knicks in this upcoming draft. If the Dallas Mavericks finish with the 11th worst record, that pick is still ours, top 10 protected. And this is a big draft for the Knicks. Do we go 3 years without making a selection? That'd be crazy. But we have our own pick still, and we have possibly the top 11 draft pick from the KP trade. Yeah, I think it's a no on Kevin Knox. And I think if I'm his agent, if I'm Kevin Knox, I'm definitely not thinking of going back to the Knicks again. No matter how best buds I am with Quickly and Grimes, I think Kevin Knox needs to choose a location that is going to help him, help him get some burn. Atlanta wasn't that. I think he just needs to go to another team rebuilding. Taj Gibson still available. Bismack Biyombo, could he be our backup power forward? That's why I said I don't think the Knicks are done. I think they can definitely swap out one of these Daquan Jeffries, Isaiah Roby roster slots for a proven vet. Markieff Morris still available. Blake Griffin, TJ Warren, Jermichael Green, Montrezl Harrell, Frank Kaminsky, Billy Hernan, Bol, Danny Green's still available. Although if we didn't see how washed he was in the playoffs, the Knicks might consider him. Svi, Frank is still available. Who would have thought? Paul Reed, Trendon Watford is a name. The third biggest restricted free agent and fourth restricted free agent available, Paul Reed and Ayo Dosunmu. Teams running out of cap space to match Terrence Ross. I don't think we need any more guards up in here, man. T. Ross. Maybe at the deadline if we're needing some ammo in the playoffs. If we make a big trade. The thing is, there's so much talent available because the league is filling up. We're going to start to see some veterans have to leave or retire. There's a lot of dudes that are waiting for roster spots now, still around. Willie Cauley-Stein still around. DJ Augustine, Myers Leonard, Goran Dragic, Boban, Dwayne Dedman, Gorgie Jang, Trevor Keels. We picked up the team option. Don Barlow. That's about it at this point. I think, the Knicks are veteran hunting, and I think it's going to be a minor shake-up or a major shake-up, depending on what kind of trade we can pull off. But I think Dallas have done pretty well. My winners so far are the Lakers, all of that. The Phoenix Suns. I think the Rockets got pretty solid as well. So we have, looks like we have some news regarding the MSG subscription. I've seen a tweet. There's a plan now available. MSG Go is now officially MSG Plus. Yep, you can connect it with your TV provider for free. For the Devils, the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Knicks. MSG Go, now MSG Plus. So Philadelphia's bringing in Mo Bamba with the intention of keeping restricted free agent Paul Reed. But Bamba gives the Sixers some security. So in terms of the other conversation we were talking about with who's in discussions with the Knicks, right? I really feel like it's got to be a team like Toronto. Maybe the Pelicans. Let's keep it real. There's the Pelicans who might be that sneaky team to shake things up. David Griffin, a lot of assets. CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion. A lot of fits that are clunky at this point in a crowded West. What's going to happen with them? I think the Minnesota Timberwolves might be a team we've had discussions with as well. Probably more teams out West because, doing deals within the conference is tricky. Like I said, a lot of teams don't want to help the Knicks improve. So best believe Masai Ujiri is going to slap that New York tax, James Dolan tax on this. Tekla, we got Augustine's available, and definitely Markieff Morris is available. No more mid-levels. We got the biannual exception, 4.5 milli, but I don't think the Knicks are going to use that unless we clear up some more space. So I think look out for the bigger trade for the Knicks, or the second move is to trade Fournier to get some relief. Maybe get another player back that we like in the Fournier trade. But I don't think it's going to be for any minor guys like Augustine or maybe Keith Morris, but we need some power forward help. I'm just looking at teams that are, kind of in purgatory in the West, especially. They're not going to really contend. They've got some salary issues coming. They're small market. Look no further than the Pels. Look no further than Mini. I said OKC earlier. I think the time's come that OKC might make a splash, trade some of those picks to try to win now. They made the play-in. That's going to be something worth watching. Miles Bridges went back to Charlotte. They gave him a qualifying offer, fam. So Miles Bridges is not available at this stage. Maybe after 1 year, I think he becomes unrestricted. So, but another reason why we're looking at teams that teams that the Knicks can do big deals with is because, guys, we've got decisions to make of our own. We've got Quentin Grimes needing extension eligible after this season coming up, after next season. Emmanuel Quickley, now extension eligible, who's coming into his final year after this season. So, and RJ Barrett. So look for teams where those pieces can fit. Because if we're making any kind of big trade, best believe those are the pieces going out to that other team. So could a team like Minnesota with an aging Conley need a guy like Emmanuel Quickley? Yes. Could a team like Toronto, who lost Fred VanVleet, who have got Dennis Schroeder as their starting point guard, could they need Emmanuel Quickley? I think that's a good fit. I think RJ Barrett, again, would fit in Canada. I think with Toronto, next to OG, Gary Trent, and Scotty, if Pascal is the one traded. What are some other teams? You guys tell me. Any other teams you can think of that you want to do a deal with? San Antonio, another team in Texas. I think that's a situation worth keeping an eye out as well with Wemby. They might try to win now too. The teams that I think Houston, the Rockets have already kind of gone in for their veterans. The West is going to be crazy. Just off the top of my head, teams like the Rockets have improved. Dallas has improved. We really could see the Timberwolves, teams like the Pelicans, most definitely in the high lottery. Especially if things don't go right and they suffer an injury or something. I think something's got to give out west, because there aren't that many bad teams. OKC are solid now. If the Pelicans are healthy, they should contend for the playoffs. If Minnesota can stay healthy, they might be solid as well. But then I could also see them being bad. The same thing in the East. I think clearly Detroit, clearly Washington, still in that tear it down mode. Again, Toronto might really stink. So that's going to be really, really interesting. This is a big question, Ronald. Salute. Given IQ 100 mil, in terms of what he's worth, I think he is worth that in this new CBA. But if I'm the New York Knicks, I'm not the one giving it to him. I love IQ, what he brings for the team and the play. But we're in that phase now where you're thinking about, okay, how are we really going to make moves to win our next chip? And that 100 milli is going to stand in the way of us making, more moves. So, and also being a backup, I'm not paying a backup 100 milli to back up Jalen Brunson. Now, if they were to find a way to play quickly next to Brunson more, then I could see that being, something they explore. But ultimately, I think either we trade quickly before extending him, or we extend him and trade him. So, meaning we come to terms with an agreement with the other team that wants quickly, and then I think that they will be comfortable. We'd sign him at 80, 90, 100, and then trade him, and the other team's happy. Like I said, the other team's got to think he's a starting point guard, because we've seen how the story ends, fam, with like Terry Rozier, Reggie Jackson, all of those things. If you're giving a dude 100 million, it's to be the starting point guard. But But man, yeah, I would love to see Quickly hang around. It's just yeah. In fact, the comment that Dirty made earlier about height. If there was a biggest if for me on this team, if Emmanuel Quickly was 6'5", if Emmanuel Quickly was 6'6", he would be worthy of being a Quentin Grimes replacement for the future of this team. It just comes down to size. He's a combo guard as well, but he's really a starting guard as well if you're paying him that. But he also lost a lot of money. Like Wilson says, salute. He didn't show up in the playoffs. Teams might be backing away now. The Knicks price tag might get cheaper. Yep. That's interesting as well. Yep. Also coming into a contract year, you want to be in a situation where you're playing big minutes and you're ready to thrive. So I think if I'm the Quickly camp, I'm like, okay, I know I'm the bona fide backup with the Knicks. I'm not mad coming back with the Knicks to boost my stock again and then make sure I can get paid the bag. Or if I can secure the bag right now and go on another team and the Knicks might trade me, I might okay that. I might okay the trade to the New York Knicks, to trade me if the other team's willing to give me the bag. Because, I mean, you were seeing too many tales of dudes mess up the bag. This is generational wealth, and you don't want to risk it. If you can get that bag, then get it. Especially if it's your first bag. If it's your first ever bag. That's why Bruce Brown left the champions. Bruce Brown left Denver to go to Indiana, a rebuilding team. Because money talks. At the end of the day, certainly Jalen Brunson's deserved all his extension and some when it's coming. But I like Quickly's minutes next to Brunson. I just don't know if it's the long-term solution, fam, coming into to a league where you need extra size. But defensively, he's a dog. He's strong. I think it's just the height, the limitation. But you know what? We might be facing the same questions if one Spider, Donovan Mitchell, ends up being available. Then we're going to be asking the same questions. Does an undersized guard who doesn't defend fit next to Jalen Brunson, but who's lightning offensively as well? But IQ is that biggest trade chip to help us get another star. So that's going to be something where I think that's going to ultimately lead to IQ being dealt as well. But as we get ready to wrap up this show, Day 6, NBA free agency, we ask the burning questions. We'll do maybe another part 2. We'll see what happens in the latest talks with these other teams to see if the Knicks can make a major move. But in terms of any move, I don't think the Knicks are done. I think the New York Knicks have got some talks, some discussions. They've got some roster movements to come. Some of them might be more marginal, but MSG Networks is doing a special tomorrow. Let's tune in, see. We've got Summer League this Saturday as well. The Knicks are at the tax apron, right? So they can't really make any signings without freeing up space. So Evan Fournier could be the biggest candidate, but who's going to want Fournier, an expiring salary, without sending out more salary? So that's the issue, right? An expiring salary is good for a team that wants money freed up, but the New York Knicks don't really want to take on money unless it's a player they like. So with that said, man, appreciate everyone rocking out. Have a great night. Peace, blessings to everyone. Thumbs up for the Knicks crew. Salute. Let's go. Peace.